My main takeaway from that was different than yours, I think. My main takeaway is that we are so divided, and I've lost very close friends of mine who have been in my house, buddies of mine over political disputes. And
we've lost co-friends.
Co-friends. So the fact that you and I can disagree on this and be completely cool, like that's the model.
Right.
Like that's what everybody should be striving to emulate. Look, dude, if you said, listen, my kids are sick, I know you're in Florida for a few days, David can't do it, can you help me out? Dude, in 1 second, I'd be there.
Yeah,
so
I know you would.
And does it matter to me if you think Biden is a driveling fool? No, it doesn't matter to me at all.
Well, it is good to see you, my friend, Peter Boghossian, obviously. You have not been on the show since February, we just checked this, February of 2019, so quite literally 4 years ago this month.
Right.
It's been a while, a lot to catch up on, we booked this thing a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And then last night was the State of the Union address.
Right. So let's start
just start with that, because something interesting happened, and I referenced it on my show this morning, on my wrap-up show. That what I see happening in America that I think is one of the most disturbing trends is that we're all watching the same script. We're all watching the same movie, and we are experiencing wildly different things. We are seeing completely different things. Our reactions are completely different. Anyway, I'm watching that thing thinking this guy's a liar, a fraud, he's obviously drugged. These people are bringing in all of the wrong policies. Right. It's a miracle he hasn't fallen off the stage and knocked the podium over. I mean, all of the stuff. And then I'm looking at your Twitter, and you're seemingly impressed by what's going on. You seem to like him. You seem to think that it's put to bed some of the questions about his mental acumen, et cetera, et cetera.
His dementia.
And then I thought, man, I cannot wait to sit with Pete tomorrow because we're friends. And it does not matter 100%. If we disagree on this stuff, but how we could view this so differently.
Right. And so the other context of that is you're texting me like, are you drunk tweeting?
Yeah, well, I thought you must be drunk or you were hacked into because you're going, Biden seems sharp. This all makes sense.
And so I guess the more profound point is that we can disagree about our perception. We're going to talk about what we perceive, but we're still buddies. I'm still sitting here. We're going to hang out like that. There's a context for our disagreement. So this is what I thought. Independent of the content, the narrative that Biden is senile or he has dementia, I think that speech, to me, it completely put that to rest. He was sharp, he was focused, and I understand he has a teleprompter. I understand he has notes in front of him. A senile person or a person with dementia, I don't care if he's on Manafidil, whatever drug he is on, I don't think he could have delivered that performance. Now I'm talking independent of content.
Okay, so let's put content aside.
Yeah, and we can talk about that content.
Sure, so we'll do the content and the policy thing after, but putting that aside, so you're just talking about his physical and mental ability to walk up on that stage and read that prompter. You think that, look, I can't diagnose him and say for sure he has dementia or Alzheimer's or something. But to me, he clearly has something wrong with him. And that the fact that they can prop him up either through Adderall or a ton of coffee or God knows what they have, whatever those drugs are. I don't know. How do you view that and go, well, because he had a decently cogent 2 hours, that overrides all of the other video of the stammering and confusion and shaking hands with ghosts and things of that nature.
It made me question, two things. Let's take a one step back. The thing that changed my mind about Donald Trump was in Trump's second debate with Biden, he clearly destroyed him. In fact, sometimes I think Megyn Kelly and I are the same person. She tweeted something like, it's all been an act. Because up at that point, I almost never heard him make a coherent argument or sentence or statement.
Wait, when you're saying he destroyed him, you mean Biden destroyed Trump?
No, Trump completely in the second debate.
Because there were only two because they canceled one. Right.
The first one was
not that good for Trump.
Yes, it was a catastrophe. But then I thought, you can't go from nothing to that. You can't go from a rambling, incoherent ignoramus to that. I mean, he was on that. I think any objective, independent inquirer would have looked at that debate and said Trump. So I think with Biden, so this gets back to the question: how can two people look at it? I think any independent person would look at that and say, he was on point. It was a good talk. He was clear. He does not have senility. He does not suffer from senility. He's not dementia. Yeah. His points were well articulated. He wasn't slurring. And I realize that's a low bar.
He
wasn't drooling.
He did slur
okay, so some of the words weren't articulated or enunciated perfectly, but I walked away from that and I questioned a lot of the narratives. I also think that there is a kind of unfairness no matter who's in office. You know, when Biden pinned the I don't know, gave blood or something on his granddaughter. Mm-hmm. People edited it to make it look like he was touching her breast. Mm-hmm. Or I think that there's a lot of just hacks who, if they don't like the content, and we can talk about the content,
sure,
that's
sure.
fine.
We will.
But I'm just talking about him standing up there and delivering that performance. I don't understand how you could not look at that and say, drugs aside, say he was on point. That was a good talk. He was clear. He made arguments. He remembered to the extent that he's on a teleprompter. He was looking around. He engaged people in real banter. I thought it was a great talk.
Okay, so we're gonna
plow
through this.
Content aside. Right.
So first off, I would say that we don't know what the drug situation is. So I would imagine, and I don't know enough about the drugs that they prescribe for cognitive decline or whatever, but it seems to me that you could basically take almost anyone probably, unless they're at the real end of stage with this stuff, and make them cogent for 2 hours. So that I don't see how that puts it to bed. If anything, it seems to me you're saying there probably are drugs out there that can make you somewhat functional.
So that would be the question, to find somebody. Right. Again, this is coming from a guy who was brought up in ethical violations for hoax papers.
Right.
You find.
And by the way, I would prefer that you're right in a way. He is still the pilot of the plane, right? So whether I agree with the stuff or not, the guy is in charge of an awful lot.
But hoping that I'm right doesn't make it right. Like you would have to find people who suffered from similar perceived cognitive ailments and give them whatever suite of drugs and see if they could perform. I would highly doubt it, unless you want to say he's somehow like a trick pony. He's somehow, and even this is territory I'm not particularly comfortable wading into, he's somehow performatively giving a talk. He has no idea what he's talking about. But even then, it was pretty impressive. I just thought it put to bed to rest the idea that here's a senile, demented guy. Now, if you've watched videos of Joe Biden from 20 years ago, I mean, he's clearly a different man. I mean, it's just, I'll give it to you, 100%. But that talk, I thought he shined.
You know, it's interesting because I also I had two grandmothers that both had a certain amount of dementia. Yeah. My grandmother on my mom's side had it for longer, and I really saw, and I spent a lot of time with her because I was doing stand-up at night. So during the days I was with her, often for days on end, hours and hours, and I really saw that decline. One of the things that I noticed that Biden seems to have, and I've seen a lot of people mention this also, is there's a dysregulation related to his emotional response.
Yeah, I can see that.
So at times he seems very slow and quiet, then he does that whispering thing, and then out of nowhere he starts yelling. Oh, and you don't know why.
About China, yeah.
And that China thing where he's yelling, it's like there was no anger to be expressing there, but he has to emote in a very weird way because something back there is not right. Again, I'm not a doctor.
It could be a performative thing too, though, right? I mean, it could be like this is how you give a good
performative, almost
speech.
As if it's broken down and it's not performing correctly, right? Like,
well, it wouldn't be as if he wouldn't doing it correctly if he broke down and had random outbursts. But if he has outbursts about the same thing, but again, I don't even think that was an outburst. I think he was trying to drill home something, maybe even to appease the Republicans. I don't know.
Right. The funny thing is neither one of us know what he was trying to drive home related to the content part of it. Okay, so putting that aside, because I don't want to spend 3 hours talking about his cognitive state, but I think the fact that we even don't really see that eye to eye is interesting, that you just feel it was enough evidence, as you said, to put it to bed, where to me it was like, that's not enough evidence to put to bed. It's enough evidence to go, oh, I'm probably right about this thing, and we will probably find out that I'm right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, think about it. If he makes it through the term, at some point when he's no longer president, or if he's had to step down or something, it's all going to come out. He's obviously on something.
Right.
So
my main takeaway from that was different than yours, I think. My main takeaway is that we are so divided, and I've lost very close friends of mine who have been in my house, buddies of mine, over political disputes and just
we've lost co-friends.
Co-friends. So the fact that you and I can disagree on this and be completely cool, like that's the model,
right?
Like that's what everybody should be striving to emulate. Look, dude, if you said, listen, my kids are sick, I know you're in Florida for a few days. David can't do it. Can you help me out? Dude, in 1 second, I'd be there.
Yeah,
so
I know you would.
And does it matter to me if you think Biden is a driveling fool? No, it doesn't matter to me at all.
It's actually more interesting in a way because we're all going into our own echo chambers, whether we like it or not. It's becoming increasingly hard to do it. So because I know you as a person and as a decent human being and all that, to watch last night, and I'm watching you tweet, and I'm like, this is wild. If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about academia, check out our Academia playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.